the arena goes dark. Not the planned, theatrical kind of dark you see before a big entrance. No pyro countdown. No dramatic music build. Just silence. And then, like a storm rolling in off the horizon, you hear it. That slow, methodical, almost royal drum beat. And 50,000 people in that arena simultaneously hold their breath because they know what's coming. And what comes next changes the entire landscape of Monday Night Raw. Welcome back to Wrestling Impact. I'm your host, and tonight we are breaking down one of the most electric, most jaw-dropping moments to grace Raw in recent memory: the return of the ring general, Gunther, and his collision course with none other than the Judgment Day's golden boy, Dominik Mysterio, over the Intercontinental Championship. Strap in, because this story has everything: power, disrespect, family drama, and the kind of chest-pounding, bone-rattling intensity that reminds you exactly why you fell in love with professional wrestling in the first place. But before we get into all of that, let me set the scene for you. For weeks leading up to this moment, Raw had been operating under a specific kind of tension. The kind that builds quietly, like pressure behind a dam. Dominik Mysterio had been walking around with that Intercontinental Championship draped over his shoulder like it was a fashion accessory. And that's not me being dramatic, that's the character. That's the story being told. Dominik, flanked by the Judgment Day, had turned that prestigious title into a prop. A photo opportunity. Something to pose with, to taunt fans with, to hold over his father's legacy without ever truly earning the respect a champion of that caliber should command. And the crowd hated him for it. Absolutely despised him. Which, credit where it's due, means Dominik was doing his job perfectly. He had perfected the art of making you feel something specifically, a burning desire to see someone shut him up. The Judgment Day surrounded him at every turn, and for a while it seemed untouchable. Bulletproof. Like nothing and no one could crack that wall they'd built around their cocky, swaggering champion. Then Gunther's music hit. Now let's talk about Gunther for a second, because context matters here. This is a man who held the Intercontinental Championship for over 870 days. Over 870 days, people. That's not a reign, that's a dynasty. That's a monument. During that time, Gunther didn't just defend the title, he defined it. He made the Intercontinental Championship feel important again in a way it hadn't felt in years. Every defense was a physical statement. Every opponent walked in with hope and walked out with a lesson written across their chest in the form of Gunther's vicious chops. The man turned that belt into something sacred. And now here comes Dominik Mysterio treating that same championship like it's a selfie backdrop. You understand why this confrontation was always going to be explosive, right? It wasn't just about a championship match being set up. It was about a philosophy clash. It was about what the Intercontinental title means. To Gunther, that belt is the measuring stick of a true competitor. To Dominik, it's a prop in a larger performance. These two weren't just on a collision course, they were two entirely different belief systems about to slam into each other at full speed. So picture Raw. The show is already rolling, the crowd is buzzing, and Dominik has just finished doing what Dominik does best: cutting a promo that manages to be both completely infuriating and oddly entertaining. He's got the microphone, he's got the smirk, and he's doing that thing where he tilts the championship in the light just to make sure the cameras catch it. Judgment Day is flanking him. The crowd is booing. Dominik is eating it up. He starts talking about how there's nobody left who could challenge him, nobody worthy, nobody brave enough to step to the Judgment Day's Intercontinental Champion. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Look around. There's no one back there who scares me. Not a single person in that locker room has what it takes to take this title from me. I am the standard. I am the Intercontinental Championship now." And just as the last word leaves his mouth, silence. That drum beat. Slow, deliberate, like a king descending from a mountain. And the crowd erupts. Gunther walks through that curtain, and he doesn't rush. That's the thing about Gunther that separates him from almost everyone else on that roster. The man never rushes. He doesn't bound down the ramp with nervous energy. He walks like someone who already knows how the story ends. Measured, composed, utterly terrifying in his stillness. He's wearing that cold, almost contemptuous expression, the one that says he's not angry, he's merely inconvenienced, and that somehow makes him more dangerous. The camera cuts to Dominik in the ring, and for just a fraction of a second, just a flicker, you see it. Something shifts in his eyes. It's not fear exactly. It's recognition. The recognition of someone who just realized the rules of the game changed the moment that music started playing. Gunther steps through the ropes, and the arena is absolutely unglued. Fans are on their feet. Signs are waving. And there's this electric current running through the building because everybody in that arena, everybody watching at home, everybody who has ever seen Gunther operate, they all know the same thing. Something real is about to happen. Gunther takes the microphone, and he doesn't shout. He doesn't perform. He just speaks. With that measured, precise intensity that makes every single word land like a verdict. He looks at Dominik, then at the championship, then back at Dominik, and he says, "I built this. I gave this championship meaning. I bled for it, I fought for it, and I made it worth something. And you are standing there treating something I made great like it belongs to you." He takes a step closer. It doesn't belong to you. It never did. The crowd loses its mind. Absolute pandemonium. And Dominik, to his credit, doesn't back down. He straightens up, tilts his chin, and the Judgment Day tightens around him like a wall closing in. And Dominik fires back, "You lost it, old man. It doesn't matter what you did with it before. All that matters is who's holding it now. And right now? That's me. There it is. That's the line." That's the moment where Gunther's expression goes from cold to colder. His jaw sets. His eyes narrow. And in that silence, in that moment between Dominik's last word and whatever comes next, the entire arena is collectively holding its breath. Gunther steps forward once more, Judgment Day steps forward with Dominik, and you've got this standoff in the center of the ring that genuinely feels like the kind of moment that gets played in montages for years. Camera panning between Gunther's stone-cold fury and Dominik's defiant smirk, with the championship belt gleaming between them as the physical embodiment of everything this confrontation is about. And then, and this is the part that sends social media into absolute overdrive, Gunther reaches out. Not aggressively. Not grabbing. Just pointing. One slow, deliberate finger aimed directly at the Intercontinental title belt on Dominik's shoulder. "That's mine. And I'm taking it back. That's it." That's all he says. But the way he says it, the absolute certainty in his voice, carries more weight than any theatrical promo ever could. Because with Gunther, you never feel like he's promising something. You feel like he's informing you of something that already happened and the timeline just hasn't caught up yet. The crowd reaction is unreal at this point. We're talking the kind of noise that makes the building vibrate. And here's where it gets fascinating from a storytelling perspective. The broadcast cuts to a split screen. On one side, you've got Gunther standing perfectly still, immovable, inevitable. On the other side, you've got Dominik whispering urgently to the Judgment Day members around him, this frantic energy contrasting sharply with Gunther's absolute stillness. That visual contrast tells you everything about the story. Order versus chaos. Certainty versus anxiety. A man who knows who he is standing across from a faction that needs each other to feel powerful. Now backstage, and this is where the layers of this story get really interesting, word starts spreading through the locker room almost immediately. You've got wrestlers watching monitors, production staff, agents, and the conversation is universally the same. This just became a real program. Because there's a difference between a feud and a program, and everyone in professional wrestling knows it. A feud is two people exchanging promos and having matches. A program is when two people have genuine story tension, when the championship feels like it actually matters, when you believe the outcome is genuinely uncertain. Gunther versus Dominik for the Intercontinental Championship is a program. Full stop. What makes this dynamic so compelling on a deeper level is the father angle simmering underneath everything, because Rey Mysterio is out there. Rey Mysterio, living legend, Hall of Famer, the man who made the Mysterio name iconic, and his own son is not only a villain but is parading around with a prestigious championship while actively mocking everything his father stood for. And now the man who defined that very championship has come back to reclaim it from the disrespectful hands currently holding it. Gunther doesn't need to reference Rey Mysterio in his promos. He doesn't need to lean on that angle. But it's there, hanging in the air, adding emotional texture to every single interaction. Because when Gunther talks about restoring dignity to the Intercontinental Championship, you can feel the ghost of every great champion in that lineage, and somewhere in that lineage is the Mysterio name itself, now tarnished by Dominik's behavior. It's poetic in a way that good professional wrestling storytelling always is. The following weeks see this rivalry simmer in the absolute best way. Gunther doesn't appear every week. He doesn't need to. His presence is a pressure, and pressure works best when it builds slowly. Dominik, meanwhile, is performing at the top of his game as a villain. He's dismissing Gunther in interviews. He's having the Judgment Day hold up his title belt like a trophy while he talks about how the old era of the Intercontinental Championship is over. He's performing confidence, and the performance is excellent, but you can see the cracks if you look closely. The way his eyes dart toward the entrance when the crowd gets loud. The way he clutches the championship just a little tighter when Gunther's name comes up. That's great character work. That's a performer who understands the difference between performing confidence and being confident, and using that gap as storytelling. And then the match is made official. The moment the announcement drops that Gunther will face Dominik Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship on Raw, the internet responds the way you'd expect it to. The anticipation is enormous. Because fans understand instinctively what this match represents. It's a referendum. Is the Intercontinental Championship going to be carried by someone who treats it as a symbol of excellence? Or is it going to continue being a fashion statement for a faction's mouthpiece? The build to the match continues with that perfect push-pull tension. Judgment Day interferes in Gunther-adjacent segments. Gunther, in turn, delivers absolutely ruthless in-ring performances against other opponents, each one a silent message to Dominik about what's coming. Watch what I do to this person. Understand that you are not exempt from this. The ring general is coming, and the ring is his courtroom. And then match night arrives. The atmosphere is different when title matches have genuine story stakes, and this one has them in abundance. The crowd is primed. You've got Judgment Day fans, you've got Gunther fans, you've got people who've been watching wrestling for decades and know they're about to see something special, and you've got newer fans who got pulled into this story because the characters and the storytelling grabbed them. That cross-generational energy in an arena is one of the most electric things professional wrestling can produce. Dominik comes out first, because of course he does, because Gunther is going to get the bigger entrance. He's got the Judgment Day around him like a royal entourage. He's performing his usual routine, working the crowd, getting maximum heat, looking every bit the arrogant champion who believes he's untouchable. And then Gunther's music hits, and the atmosphere transforms completely. The match itself, and I want to paint this picture for you vividly, is a masterclass in contrasting styles. Dominik's strategy is clear from the opening bell: keep moving, use the Judgment Day presence as a psychological weapon, create distance, and look for shortcuts. He's not stupid. He knows a prolonged physical battle with Gunther is a losing proposition, so he's playing chess while the crowd screams at him to stop running. Gunther's strategy is equally clear: he's methodical, patient. He knows the shortcuts are coming. He's prepared for them. And every time the Judgment Day tries to tilt the scales, Gunther reads it before it happens. There's a particular sequence where a Judgment Day member tries to provide a distraction at ringside, and Gunther doesn't even look at them. He keeps his eyes locked on Dominik, raises one hand as if to say I already accounted for this, and redirects the momentum back to where he wants it. The crowd is absolutely electric throughout. Every chop Gunther lands draws a visceral reaction. The thunderclaps sound echoing through the arena, Dominik recoiling, the fans gasping and then roaring with a mixture of delight and horror at the pure physical impact of it. And then Dominik, being the incredible heel performer that he is, turns even taking chops into character work. The way he sells the damage while simultaneously glancing outside for a lifeline, the way his confidence visibly erodes as the match progresses. It tells a story within a story. The near falls are constructed beautifully. Dominik gets a close call on a desperate roll-up, and for just a moment the arena collectively gasps because nobody wants this to end that way. Gunther kicks out at 2 and change, and the relief from the crowd is audible. Another moment where Judgment Day interference almost tips the scales. Referee distracted, the numbers game threatening to swallow the match whole, and Gunther has to battle through the chaos to keep finding his way back to center. And that's actually the emotional arc of the match, when you think about it. Dominik and Judgment Day represent chaos, distraction, shortcuts, the modern tendency to avoid earning things honestly. Gunther represents order, discipline, directness. And watching Gunther cut through the chaos, refuse to be distracted, keep returning to fundamentals with an almost religious devotion, it's genuinely inspiring storytelling through athletics. The final sequence builds with the kind of momentum that makes you forget you're watching television. Gunther has Dominik isolated. The Judgment Day has been neutralized one way or another. It's just the two of them, which is how it was always supposed to be. Dominik makes one last desperate attempt: a low blow, a foreign object, a roll-up with a handful of tights. Whatever the specific mechanism, it embodies his character looking for a shortcut when the honest path is too difficult. Gunther powers out. And then the powerbomb. That devastating, arena-shaking powerbomb, and the cover, and the 3 count, and the arena explodes like a pressure valve, finally releasing all that built-up tension. The crowd is on their feet. The referee raises Gunther's hand and presents him with the Intercontinental Championship, and he holds it for a moment, just holds it, looking at it before raising it above his head. And in that image, in that moment of a ring general reclaiming what he built, there's genuine emotional resonance. Because this wasn't just a title change. This was a story completing its arc. This was excellence defeating shortcuts. This was the Intercontinental Championship being returned to hands that treat it as sacred. The camera finds Dominik on the outside, looking back into the ring, and his expression has shifted entirely. The smirk is gone. In its place is something more complicated, the look of someone who suddenly understands that the game has rules, and those rules just caught up with him. This whole story, from the drumbeat return to the championship reclamation, is professional wrestling storytelling working at its absolute best. It's not just about who wins and who loses. It's about what those outcomes mean. It's about characters whose philosophies clash as dramatically as their wrestling styles. It's about a championship that represents something larger than the person holding it. Gunther coming back to Raw and confronting Dominik Mysterio wasn't just a segment. It was a statement. A reminder of what the Intercontinental Championship is supposed to feel like. And now, with Gunther holding that title again, watching the championship return to the shoulder of someone who carries it with genuine gravitas, it's impossible not to feel like professional wrestling just remembered something important about itself. That's what makes this moment one for the highlight reel. That's what makes this the kind of story we talk about at Wrestling Impact, not just what happened, but why it mattered. And this is why, my friends, this is exactly why you keep watching. Because sometimes, not always, but sometimes the right story gets told at the right time in the right way, and it makes you feel something. And feeling something is the whole point. If this breakdown hit different for you, if you got those goosebumps somewhere in the middle of it, hit that like button and let us know. Drop in the comments who's your favorite Intercontinental Champion of all time. Is Gunther already on your list? Because the arguments being made in that ring every single week are building a pretty compelling case. Subscribe to Wrestling Impact if you haven't already, because we are not done covering this story, not even close. The ring general has reclaimed his kingdom, Dominik Mysterio is going to want revenge, and the Judgment Day doesn't accept losses quietly. This war is just getting started, and we'll be here for every single moment of it.